Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far as the league seems to continue to stretch apart in terms of who are the best teams and who are most certainly the worst teams. Big questions raised on whether there are some serious paycheck stealers and paycheck collectors living in this league at the moment. It has been a thing over the last few years, no doubt, in the CDL era where there's a salary in play now and it's not just winning based on prize earnings as it was way back in the early days of the grassroots COD space coming through. Dashy certainly believes that many of these teams they play in practice are simply not delivering anything on the other side of the server. They are not playing winning COD, and he does not believe that for many of these teams, winning is a priority effectively at all. Very much interested your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into today. First of all, and I'm sure this is going to be sensational content, it is 20 versus 1 featuring Dashy. I know that they talked about this a while ago. It's like a Sidemen style thing, right? But yeah, 20 women, 1 Dashy. So I'm pretty sure applications are open for this if women want to get involved. Absolutely. I don't know what type of women are getting involved. I guess we'll see. But, you know, Dashy gotta be the horniest pro in the league, right? I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, this is gonna be quality content. I don't know if he's actually gonna wear a suit like this or what the plan is gonna be. But I think they talked about this a little while ago about putting something like this on. Dashy's clearly down. So just sensational work. May the 2nd, 8 PM Central Time. So that was gonna be kind of late for me. Whatever, I'll catch him in the morning maybe. Something like that anyway. Have a look at some numbers real quick. For the major 3 qualifiers so far, the overall KDs are as follows. Of course, Cell yesterday had a 1.8, so that's helped somewhat. I'm sure Gwyn is kind of annoyed because he's like, damn, I could have been leading the KD race after 2 weeks. But no, Cellium, he's got to do it again, hasn't he? So he's got a 1.23, which I think at this point might be like the trademark Cellium KD. It's always something like this. Like, if you give him enough sample size in a stage, his KD will always be 1.22 to 1.28 or something, maybe a little bit higher sometimes, but yeah, just absolute freak of nature. Gwyn though is 2nd with a 1.22, so he's had a phenomenal start. Skyz somehow 1.16, we know we talked about that the other day, potentially playing for kills a bit too much. Dashy is here, Nero is actually here as well for Vegas, and the sample size probably isn't big enough yet to really lean too much into this, but I thought it was worth looking at. Kenny, CleanX are here in the hardpoint. Skyz though with a 1.35 in hardpoint, which is, yeah, just something to look at given the fact that Subliners hardpoint hasn't been especially clinical as of late. These are the search and destroy KDs, and it's Simp and aBeZy top in the timings. Envoy, by the way, has, okay, I'm sure his hardpoint KD, I don't even want to look down that far, but his search and destroy KD, he does have a 1.7. ReeaL, Lins are up here as well, but the fact that the Tiny Terrors are both leading the way, both with like a 2 KD, is like, blimey, because they're difficult enough to beat in the respawns. If their search is godlike as well, then where do you even go from there? This is control as well, of course. There's only 1 control played per series, so you are going to have, you know, there's less sample size usually in play here, but HyDra, Pred, Scrappy, and actually Priestahh topping the lot here. So some different names floating around. Thought it was interesting that apart from Gwyn, no players noted there from the Ravens. And their search and destroy has been, well, shambolic, to be honest, for some time. But it is a game mode they need to turn around. Because ever since Ravens made the changes and they brought in TJ and they brought in Felony going into Major 1, they've been better in respawn, like since they were with GodRx. There's no doubt about it that GodRx was pretty slow, pretty lost on the map, not getting many kills at all. Ever since they made those changes, they've definitely been better in the respawns, but their search was not good at the start. It was what cost them back at Major 1. Sure, they choked that game 4 because Illy made that crazy play on that invasion hardpoint. But, you know, if they'd have won the game 5 there against Surge, they'd have been top 6. Then maybe they could even go 1 better, right? But that didn't happen. And often at these big tournaments, if you really want to contend and try and win, or at least make it to a championship Sunday, you've got to be able to upset teams. And honestly, as it stands, I would be very confident if I'm Ravens, or any other team. Like if I'm Thieves, I'm Ravens. The top 4 are no longer impenetrable. FaZe, okay, they're tough to beat. And OpTic as well are pretty similar. But Toronto are beatable right now, for sure. And Subliners are definitely beatable right now. So I no longer think we have a league where, at the next major in Toronto, I don't think we're necessarily going to get the top 4 being the top 4 again, as it was in Miami. Maybe that happens. You'd still probably say that's more likely than any other outcome. But there is definitely a chance that one of these teams that is in that kind of, you know, upper midfield can get themselves into top 4, maybe even top 3. I feel like a finals is a stretch, but if Ravens were to be all of a sudden winning 65% of their searches, I think there's a very good chance they could get top 4, maybe even top 3 at the upcoming events. But their search has been pretty bad. But as Clay says, we've been in the lab, we've been working hard on our search. So that is just, well, a key thing to look for as we go forward. If Raven's search continues to progress, if Thieves' search continues to progress, and Vegas as well, to be honest, and that was the thing with the aBeZy change. I wasn't sure what it was going to do for their search because aBeZy has not been good at search this season at all. His numbers are worse than Purge for sure in that mode. And of course, they lost to OpTic the other day in not especially impressive fashion, but this is what Dashy has to say, because there are some teams, you know, the likes of the Ravens, Vegas, Thieves, that's probably about it, to be honest. That might have some confidence they can actually take some strides up the field. There are some teams, however, that are in absolutely damage control mode, and honestly kind of paycheck control mode. And I feel like that's how the league is nowadays. That's how the league has been for some time, because, you know, some of these teams will genuinely believe they can actually win. But most of them aren't like that. Most of them are thinking, well, you know, can we make it to champs? That's kind of one of the goals. Or maybe a more pertinent goal for some of these players, can I just keep my spot in the league? Because when there's a salary in play, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing necessarily, that the league is, you know, the players are more salaried than they previously were. Let's say 10 years ago, salaries weren't really a thing at all. So teams, in order to make money and survive and pay their bills and whatever, they would have to win. That was the name of the game. If you weren't winning, you weren't making enough money to make this work as a thing. Nowadays, the players get, sure, maybe not great salaries, and the minimum salary, at least if you live in California, ain't great at all, to be honest. Around that like 55k mark or whatever it is, but there is at least some stability in play if you can maintain your spot. And to be honest, I don't even think this is just players. I think this is definitely a thing for coaches as well, because the coach, or let's say the general manager, they will build the team at the start of the season. If it goes badly wrong, they'll make some changes. And then, you know, their job is, like many of the players' jobs, to try and just maintain their spot. Right? That's how it seems to me, that often the coaching staffs, there's lots of coaching staff, as I would say, that should have been blown up before they were. But I don't know, maybe they sweet talk to the owners or whatever, and they managed to keep their spots. So I don't think it's just players that are guilty of this. I feel like there's often coaches as well that are in a position of, well, you know, let me just make this move, not necessarily to win, but just to be a little bit better and maybe gain a favor with this guy and, you know, use kind of friendship cheese to your advantage. There's definitely some of that going on for the coaches, I think, as well as the players. But it's certainly true for some of the players, and Dashy and even JP Krez has made this clear a little while ago as well, that he doesn't feel like the quality of practice they get is good from basically any team. He feels like there's lots of guys practicing that OpTic will just slam and won't even feel like they're getting good quality reps in. The only teams that he said give you good quality reps are FaZe and Ultra. And obviously we see FaZe maybe a little bit better than Ultra right now based on yesterday. Even the Subliners, JP didn't put in this category because he maybe doesn't feel like they play quite the right way. And there's lots of teams like that. The implication is that there's certain players on these teams that aren't necessarily making the right plays to win. They're trying to play to look good, in their, not even just in matches, but even in their practice potentially as well.
Eights is just never a thing. I don't know why this game's just dead, dude. Like, I try to play every day, but... Well, I do play every day, but I try to get something like comp related going every day. It's after scrim. Even like this is why this game is kind of annoying, because like even like during the scrim, I'm like, holy shit, am I even fucking getting practice? Like, and it's not even because people are like bad like mechanically or anything. It's really not that, because there's I feel like I'd say at least 95% of the pros are actually good at like the mechanics. Like, it's just the way they're fucking playing. No one's getting in the hill. Like it's a scrim. Like, you can just tell by playing some teams that the win is not their first priority. Let's just say that. Sure, they like. Do they want to win? Yes, but like not at the cost of like. Let's just say certain other things. You know.
Crowder's the one who I feel like taught me all that stuff. Like, you know, take accountability, teamwork. You know what it takes to win. You know, because there's obviously a lot that goes into it. But Pat, anybody got an answer to this? Pat, you got an answer to this? Anybody else want to answer this question?
I mean, I think a lot of players are collecting a paycheck right now in this league.
100%. You can't really blame them, but 100%. It's more on the organizations and who they pick up. Right?
Ben Diddy.
Also, just knowing Adam, I doubt he's walking around thinking he doesn't have to improve, and his game is.
Adam's
perfect.
far enough along in his career. He knows exactly how he's playing.
It's a lot of these teams don't have a culture, and everybody who contributes to the culture is kind of sleepwalking through this. And it's not just players collecting a check; it's management, it's coaches, it's other players on the team allowing us a environment where winning is not the focus, and everybody trying to be a mercenary.
Well, a big problem too that we don't really talk about is like it's also hard to be on a team that is just chalked, right? Like, let's use Adam as an example. Like, even if Adam wants to improve, blah, 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 Adam could wake up tomorrow and be the best MW3 player in the world. His team still sucks. And his team is still gonna suck. And
That's how I felt on Seattle.
Yeah.
So obviously the Fank Boys commented on this, also discussing kind of, you know, their side of the story. As Octane said, that sometimes it doesn't even matter how good you are. If you're on a bad team, you're going to get slammed. That's how he felt on Surge. Of course, Eggs made that point as well. So I guess that is a fair argument, maybe, that if you're a good player but on a bad team, maybe it doesn't matter playing for the win because you ain't winning anyway. So you might as well just look as good as you can so you don't get dropped. And that's definitely been a thing over the last few years, you know, playing for kills, whatever. I think even Surge, I think there's a good argument that this season RCTs was playing certain situations for kills as opposed to the victory. There were lots of occasions when his KD looked and his, you know, damage, and these numbers looked better than they otherwise might have done given the result that they had in the game. And obviously the eye test says something as well. And guess what? They make one change. RCTs is gone. 0-4 is in. I do think one of the major benefits is actually allowed aBeZy and aBeZy to run roles that they're more comfortable running. But 0-4's come in, and there's no denying that Surge have looked better in their series since RCTs has gone, even with that, you know, one-man move, because maybe they're playing to win a little bit more now. So how many Paycheck Collectors do you think there are in the CDL as it stands? You know, there's some players that I guess you could call Paycheck Stealers that maybe, you know, think are good enough to actually be in the league. But those are relatively few in number, I would say. There are certainly some players, though, that are, you know, they're chilling out. I think on teams like Surge, that's been the case before. My feeling is that on teams like, you know, Vegas and Ravens and even Thieves, there is some upward trajectory and momentum there. Maybe even Rocker fall into that category as well. But, you know, some teams like, I think often the previous Boston teams have had this problem even over the last couple of years. But a team like the Los Angeles Guerrillas, for example, they are trash online. I mean, this stage, they're woeful. I don't think they've won a map yet. Have they online this stage? It's just shambolic. But those guys probably know that the money is getting given back to the organizations. That means that if Guerrillas want to sell or get rid of their spot or let somebody else take it over, they don't have to get anyone to pay them any money for it because they've got that money back themselves. They don't have to sell their spot on for a loss. They're going to get that money refunded. So Guerrillas as an organization are probably not going to exist next season. At least I hope so. And maybe another organization that's more competent or actually cares comes through. But that means if you're a player over there, your spot is as least guaranteed as it can possibly be. So right now, if you're a player on the Guerrillas, you're not even playing to win. And this is, as Dashy says, you know, winning is not their first priority, because for a lot of these guys on many of these teams, their priority in matches is not necessarily to try and win tournaments. It's to look good enough that you're going to stay in the league and you're going to get signed somewhere else next season, which is definitely the goal for some of these teams. Now, of course, it's easy to kind of clown Dashy for this, saying that, oh, for a lot of these teams, winning isn't their first priority, because that's obviously an accusation that people make against OpTic, right? That, you know, they're a content team and all this, and there's certain things they care about more than winning, and it's not like Dashy's won in quite a long time. But I still think, whatever you think of, you know, the Messenger, I don't think Dashy's wrong, that some of these guys absolutely have higher priorities in their minds and ulterior motives than actually being the best player they can be and winning for their team. There are clearly other things going on as well. So very much intrigued your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Just one final thing to mention, thought was kind of cool. Rookie wins leaderboard is getting close. So JoeDeceives is still leading the way with 9 series wins. But of course, he is, this is eloquently described, no longer active, right? Because he's dropped. Gwyn has 8. That is soon going to go up. Geo has 8. You know, aBeZy, Lin's all at 8. So that's how it stands right now. I think, you know, in previous seasons, we've had rookies get like 30 wins or something. That ain't the case this year. And their average land placement is pretty ugly as well, and gets uglier the further down you go. This is a natural inevitability in some ways of players being on teams that are not so good, especially rookie players, and not getting signed to the top teams. But there's a good argument even that some of those top teams might need to make big changes for next season based on the way that FaZe are currently playing. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.